What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Wednesday night live stream. Now, Robert has been a fairly regular guest, and I know we've been bugging him for probably 6 months now to get his new tank running since he moved, and it is finally filled. It's finally full of water, and today you've been introducing new fish.
Yeah. Well, so the second box of fish, the first one was about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I got a couple of biota fish along with some macroalgae and stuff. But today was like I put 6 fish in. So we got clowns, 4 clowns, a blenny, and then a pseudochromis. So
Nice.
sort of like really stocked it. I'm gonna hang tight with these fish. I do have some other goals for it, but right now moving forward, it's just gonna be corals and inverts that I put in there. But yeah, I mean, technically speaking, it's now stocked. So it's exciting times. Exciting times. I've been chomping at the bit to get fish in there, and like I've been waiting for these sea and reef fish for a while because I've just always liked their clowns. I've always ordered them for a long time, and finally got the box and super stoked, man. It's exciting times.
Oh, that's awesome. It's
hmm
nice to get life in there and to kind of turn it into a reef tank.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
been so. I mean, the tank in general has been great. So I cycled it. I kind of was doing this like experimental bacteria stuff, or dose a bunch of bacteria, which is fun. It was great. It actually worked out really, really well. The tank's super clean, not having any sort of ugly problems. There's
No,
like some
no.
dinos or some diatom growth for a little bit, maybe like 1 to 2 weeks there where I was, it wasn't bad either. It was like
hmm
I would just blow it off the rocks and clean it out, and I did that daily.
Yep.
Kept up with a daily bacteria dose, and now I'm doing Brightwell Microbacter 7 like
Yep.
every 2 or 3 days, maybe daily, but usually every 2 or 3 days. Just a very regular dose of it every time I
hmm
remember. Essentially, just a small dose, maybe 10 milliliters. And yeah, man, it's cruising right along. It's keeping things clean. I haven't noticed any. There was some sort of like some gold algae, maybe some sort of cyanobacteria or something. But that was, it was real quick. It was just on like the walls and the rocks, and I cleaned that off a couple times, and now it's not growing back. The sand's super clean, everything's super healthy. So I'm excited. I
Nice.
think my bacteria experiment sort of worked to achieve or get through this ugly stage. Now, one caveat: I'm gonna have elevated nutrients now.
Yeah.
I've been dosing coral aminos and of course feeding every day, so there is nutrients going in there,
hmm
but not as much as 6, 7. So I'll have 7 fish now. So we'll
Did
see. We'll test the theory. I
did
do have
you
a. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
oh did you do the bacteria soup or did you pick one and stick to it? What'd you do?
Oh, so that yeah. I started out with this brand called Aquaria Munster. It's a German brand, I think, and that was the
Mhm.
bacteria I used to start it. Then I added Dr. Tim's, one and only, and then I started in with Microbacter 7 with like a daily dose. I
Yeah.
did Dr. Tim's like on a regular dose until I ran out, and then I went over to Microbacter 7. So I'll call it a soup. But I'm not like mixing them together in like a beaker and then dumping them in every day. So
You never know.
yeah, but I think there's something to this, man. And some of these bacteria brands do talk about like a maintenance dose, or doing it once a month, or doing it once a week.
hmm
Uh, but I think there's something to this in getting through this ugly stage, or getting through those first few weeks with dry rock and keeping the things clean. I think there's something to it. It's just a matter of figuring it out. I don't know, maybe something Ryan and the crew will test in all those beautiful test tanks they have.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of sort of honing in on it, and something that works 99% of the time.
Well, it sounds like you did a good job of missing most of the uglies, so it sounded pretty minimal, which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't pulling my hair out. But again, nutrients. Oh, and I don't have a cleanup crew. Like, there's literally no
None?
inverts in there
Nothing?
whatsoever.
Just fish?
Nothing whatsoever. Yeah. So I'm gonna, yeah, that's a little scary, but at the same time, I think it's good. I, you know, I have particular feelings about how effective those things are versus just adding more nutrients. Um,
Fair.
I think I'm just gonna add a couple turbo snails, a couple Necerius, and that's it. Like I like the Necerius because it'll stir up the sand bed.
Yep.
One or two big old turbos just to kind of cruise around for the sake of doing it, and then something to pick at the rocks. the bunny should handle that. I might get another, herbivorous fish down the road, but
Nice. So
roll with
pretty
punches,
basic
man.
cleanup crew. Fish cleanup crew.
Yeah,
That works.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna go like heavy with like bunch of snails and crabs.
I
It just ends
find
up shell wasteland after 6 months.
yeah, my wrasses kind of pick at mine constantly, so it is a little bit of a moot
A
point to
battle.
add them because eventually
Well,
they
I
get
mean,
picked off. At least the little
it's
ones. Yeah.
always been, yeah. I mean, it's always been you have to buy a new one every 2 years. 12 months if you really think about it. Your hermit crabs, you get the king of the tank. The snails, sometimes you get the astrinas or some of the brands or brands, some of the species where they'll reproduce in the tank, but generally speaking, they just the population just equalizes with nutrient and food availability. And then I just kind of noticed after some time, you really only end up with just a couple. And whether that's food availability or some other reason, like fish eating them or predation or something, I don't know. But yeah, I think there's just some conversation to be had about the way that we classically approach a cleanup crew. I'm not sure absolutely necessary.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. I mean, realistically, as long as you clean the glass and there's no algae growing on the rocks, you're in a pretty good place.
Yeah, for me, it's what's impressive about this whole experience. What I'm doing is the rocks. They're like really clean, way more than I expected, to be honest with you. And there's nothing in there that's like, there's no urchin or anything. That's the thing too. Like, I was turned on to urchins years ago, and if I ever have an issue, like, I'll just go buy an urchin, and they're awesome. They're great, man. I've never had a bad experience with one, other than being like too big and being a bulldozer. They've always just been awesome, and will eat anything and everything I want off the rocks.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's just how clean the rocks are staying and for how long it's happening. I'm not really getting coral and algae, which is weird.
Yeah. Well, how long has the tank been running?
I don't know, 8 weeks.
Okay. Now the first question: did you introduce any coralline algae?
Yeah. Well, okay. So I've added a bunch of frags from different people.
Okay.
I've added, like frags from probably 4 or 5 different takes. I didn't purposely look, or you know what I mean. I didn't look for anything. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's a good point. I'm using classic Tropic Marian Classic, so it's got elevated parameters, and there's only soft coral in there. Well, no, there's a Euphilia, or there's a torch. Yeah, Euphilia. Yeah. But point being is there's nothing that's like synthesizing a bunch of calcium and alkalinity. So yeah, the parameters should be fine for coral and algae.
But you still have to introduce it, right? Because you have to add it. Add needs a source.
Yeah, no, totally, 100%.
Okay.
And yeah, I guess I haven't purposely done that. I've had this cleanup crew thing in the back of my mind, and always resolved that with the whole coralline, as well as just getting the sand sifted, or the sand stirred up, like I like to do. That's the big reason I keep the rainford gobies, is because they're sand sifters, but they don't make like a big mess. They got like small mouths. So I think they do a good job of that. Combined with a couple of nefarious snails, I think it's just a great combo.
Nice. So that's a good call, actually, because they do clean the sand, but they don't like spit it all over your corals.
Yeah, they don't make a mess, and they're calm. They're not, they're not as territorial as goby, or your orange spot, or like your watchman gobies. Yeah, just great experience, and they're cool looking. They're super cool looking.
Oh yeah,
I love fish like that with they have a pearl and the lines on them and a yellow head. Like they're just neat fish. They're really neat fish.
The court jester goby, or?
Yeah, actually, I call it rainford, but court jester. His name's Joker.
Joker? He looks like a Joker.
Yeah. The little toddler was running through today trying to name the fish. I mean, of course, she couldn't stop saying Nemo and Marlin, which drove me up the wall. But I think we landed I remember peanut butter was one.
Yeah.
Jelly was the orchid dottyback, or the pseudochromis. So got peanut butter and jelly. What was it? Oh God, what was the other one? Oh yeah, she wanted SpongeBob and Patrick for the 2 clowns, and then we didn't get names for the Miss Bars. I guess we could talk about that. The fish that I did get.
Yeah. So what else in the tank?
Yeah. Sea and reef clownfish. These are kind of the 2 coolest ones I'm most excited about. So there's a pair of they're phantoms, at what Sea and Reef calls them. I think it's like a black snowflakes, which I think is the same thing. per discussion I've had with Mr. Chad Vosson. Not like super up and up on designer clownfish classification, but you get some sort of variance with the different breeders and what they call them. But their premium black phantoms was the cool pair. It's a really neat because it's like a premium snowflake or like extreme snowflake, but they have blue. They have that blue sort of iridescence in them, especially around the dots, the little bullet holes they have on them. So that's real exciting. That's cool.
They look pretty cool.
Yeah, I've had snowflakes before, but never had a black, like, black and white like this with the blue on them. I think there's some other name too that people use for the blue, white, and black like that, but I can't remember. Sapphire maybe? I don't know. Anyway, and then just some regular Miss Bar perculas. I like the perculas. They're cool. They were inexpensive, and I was lucky enough to, get them chosen to pair up. So, I mean, within these 4 hours, they're already swimming side by side. So the perculas are in the acclimation tank. So they're isolated with some macroalgae. I'm probably going to dump them all at the same time, like we talked about. But we can hash that out on here and see what everybody thinks. And then the premium the phantoms, they're already swimming together. Striped blenny, rainfrag Goby, and then the pseudochromis fridmani. So the orchid dotty back.
Okay. So, first question. So did you add all of your clowns today, or what's in there right now? Because I know you had the two in the refugium box, but did they all come today?
Yes, they all came today. So everything was acclimated today. They're little. They're like all 1 inch, inch and a half, which I requested. I wanted them small because I thought that would give me a better chance of actually ending up with 2 pairs or 4 of them. Because ultimately that's what I want. My goal for this tank was not to easy on the fish load. I really wanted to focus on like soft coral macroalgae growth. So
Nice.
Hopefully it all pans out. I just couldn't. I told myself yesterday and the day before, like, just add all 4 of them. It's better to add them all at the same time. Just do it.
I think so.
I got cold feet today, man. I was like, I can't do it. So I put the 2 Miss Bars in the acclimation chamber, and they're just chilling. And then they put the phantoms in the display. I don't know. I'm going to try. Like, I want them to all be in that tank ultimately. I have a 10-gallon tank. Oh, that's another big accomplishment. I finally cleaned up the area down there and got a desk, really, but just a shelf next to the tank. So that way I have somewhere to put a secondary tank where I can hold frags or do some isolation or do QT should I need it. So that's good. I cleaned up the pile of my equipment, got a big cabinet on the other side, got everything organized, got my test kits all put away. So it feels good to, accomplish this fish tank pile that's just been creeping on me for really like 18 months of my life. But
it's a while.
Yeah, it's all cleaned up down there. It's in our basement. So accomplishment there. The point being is I have this 10-gallon tank down there that I can set up at any time.
Yeah.
I have 2 Brightwell export blocks in the sump, teeming with life. So that can be an instant tank at any moment in time. And it will. Really, I just need to get a pump that's sized small enough to fit. It's an all-in-one. It's a neat little 10-gallon all-in-one tank. I have, carbon sponges. I have everything I'll need on that end, but I'll just break that export in half or, cut it to fit down in the back, put it in one chamber, fill it, and I can have fish in there right away, Yeah, I'll be ready to roll. I actually have some crushed coral, too, that I can put down the bottom. I didn't think about that.
So on the clown front, I mean, you have the nice advantage that they're tiny right now, right? So they're all little guys. So none of them are going to be overly dominant yet. And personally, I would want to add them fairly quick just because there's no established territory yet.
Yeah, I know. I'm just so scared. And I've had it both ways. I've kept multiple pairs of clownfish in the same tank. Granted, it was a 70-gallon the time I remember. I've had 3 clowns in one tank. I've had 2 big old Clark eyes plus a pair of Ocellaris or perks in the same tank, and that was just a 50-gallon tank. The 2 Clarkies and the 2 perks. So I've had success with them. They've all been captive bred, which I think is a big deal, or a big part of this. And then of course raising them from juveniles. I will probably do it because I know I don't want to have another tank quite yet.
Yep.
But it was just this afternoon after I acclimated them. Like I was just so happy to put fish in, and I'm like, you know what? It's right here. Just drop them in. Like they can live in this thing happily for easily 6 months. Like they're just so tiny. Like they'll be fine in this thing, and it's chock full of ulva, as well as some ogo in there. So they're like super happy. You know, like there's no,
Yeah.
they can't see out. Like nothing can stress them. So it's a good little spot for right now. The only downside to having those little, keeping fish in those things is you got to remember to feed them. The food just doesn't automatic, like it doesn't.
That's true.
It will go in there, but like you should target feed it. I've had a situation before where I kept one in there. It was actually it was cool. It was a captive bred lemon peel centrifuge, so dwarf angel. I got
nice.
it at a ReefDudes, no, the Machner Reef, one of the trade shows, Machner ReefDudes. It's really stoked on it. It was a couple years ago, and of course, like really stoked on this fish. It was little. I just didn't want to dump it into, throw it to the wolves in the reef tank. So I put in the acclimation thing, and I was all excited, and it was doing fine for a couple months. And I kind of noticed like it wasn't getting food. I was like, God, I'm feeding the crap out of the tank. Like, how is it not? And then I started target feeding in the chamber because I realized it just wasn't getting food being pushed through with just the natural circulation of things. It just sort of filtered out, which is probably common sense, but it's easy to overlook something like that,
Yeah. I've never tried for fish, but I used it for baby rock flowers in the past, like the little boxes. And same thing. I had to go in there and use something like griefroids and spot treat super tiny powdery food for them. Otherwise, it just kind of circled around it.
The acclimation chamber Harry made was great, man. He did a good job. It's perfect size. It's big, but I asked for it to be big. It's nice and tight up against the surface of the water, so it doesn't there's not a bulky brack or anything. I really like having it. The one downside is it kind of takes away, like it's in the display, so it takes away from that. I that's the one reason I want that 10-gallon will probably get set up in the next couple months here, is because I want to collect these macroalgae. I don't want to put ulva in that display quite yet because the rock is bare, and so I feel like if I seed it with ulva now, because that stuff can be pretty nasty. So I think I'll end up having that second tank just to sort of collect the different macroalgae and chlorpa. Like I haven't introduced chlorpa, but I plan on doing that. So as soon as I find the species of chlorpa that I want, like I would rather have that take over and grow on the rocks than have the ulva,
Now, are you going to pipe them together so it's one system, or keep them separate?
No, the 10-gallon will stay separate, so it can be an ISO tank or it's just an all-in-one tank too. So I wouldn't. It'd be a real pain in the ass to plumb it all together. There's no reason to, Yeah.
All right. Other random question: did you do anything with quarantining or treating or do anything ahead of fish, or just pop them in?
No, with the biota and the sea and reef, I haven't. I'm pretty I mean, it could happen.
Yeah.
But these guys, like,
pretty safe sources.
Good. Yeah, they're good breeders, man. And I don't know, fingers crossed, I guess. I hate to be that guy. Do as I say, not as I do. But at the same time, like, I know they came directly from these guys, and they're reputable breeders. So I'm pretty confident. Nothing's going to happen now. That doesn't mean down the road, like, when I add outside fish from different places, but I don't plan on doing that right away.
That's good.
I mean, I'm going to have a hard time not picking up like a baby tang or something. But not yet. Not yet.
No, that's fair. Yeah, kind of similar. It depends where I get them from. Like I know certain places that do, medicated if required, and they do kind of pre-deal a thing, so it's less likely to worry about it than some random wholesaler store I've never bought from them. Be more tempted to properly at least watch them separately before I added them. But
most certainly, and I've always had great luck with both of these guys, specifically captive bred fish, and getting them direct from them. There was it's not like it sat at a store or be intermixed with other fish or other holding systems. It came from them straight to me. So I was pretty confident. And at the end of the day, I could have set that tank up and it would have been easy and it would have been fine. But I just kind of waited out and just decided against it. I don't have any fish meds either, so it would have been like isolation, observation, that kind of thing.
That's fair. Yeah. Peter T, get a baby yellow tang. So what kind of tang would you get if you did that one later?
So I have an affinity for the Atlantic blue tang. So it's just the Atlantic blue tang. They look like a purple tang when they're little. They're like yellow, and then they slowly transform. Yeah, they transform into like a cobalt or like a gray powder blue.
That's super pretty.
Yeah, it's a big one though. I think they get pretty big overall. For a tang for a Acanthus. So yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I like those. I have a soft spot for centrifige too. So centrifige angel, the dwarf angels. If I can come across one of those, specifically a captive one, I'd be a happy man. I mean, I would fork over good money for one of the captive bred centrifige. I'm just sort of waiting to come across that, which will happen in my reef tank travels, soon enough.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some specific ones within the centrifige that I really want to, if I didn't get a captive bred one and I went wild caught, like the keyhole one, or like the black one's really cool. The lemon peel's awesome. Some of the stuff.
The Potters is pretty cool. It's one I haven't kept, but I've been tempted to get them a few times.
Potters is awesome. It looks like the leopard wrasse. They're all really cool, man. But it's I'm just want to go slow. I don't want to let the excitement take over and just start spending money everywhere and reaching out and buying fish from everybody and end up with too much and into a situation where I've been plenty of times before with I don't want to say overstocked, but packed to the brim and having to negotiate my maintenance schedule around that. I really want to keep this a fatherhood friendly tank.
That's fair. Yeah, don't make it too much work for yourself.
Yeah, man. Especially I know what I'm getting into. I know, and I can responsibly do this. So that's the goal.
Nice. Tracy has all the cool fish in the chat. I think he's talking about your tang. I have one. I have the Potter's Angel also. Nice.
Yeah, the Potter's Angel is cool. I have the leopard wrasse. I think they have a similar coloration, or maybe it's just the name of the guy. We can Google that shiz real quick. Yeah. I had because I did have the leopard wrasse at one point in time.
I have one of those. They're awesome fish. Love them.
Yeah, they're neat. Well, there's a couple different types too. The Potter's leopard wrasse. Yeah, that's it. So there's like a Potter's wrasse, and then there's a Potter's
angel.
Yeah, and they're scribbled. I mean, they have the angelfish is more orange and like a deeper blue, but it's a very similar appearance.
Yeah. So this is actually an interesting comment from Bert. Can we ever have too many fish or corals? So
what do you mean? Oh, go ahead.
No. So for fish wise, I would say half of the equation is, can your filtration handle it? So you're not doing crazy water changes all the time. And B, do you have enough little cubby holes? Because I find a big thing with fish is making sure everyone has its own little sleeping hole or hidey hole. And if they don't, like if you have a very minimalist escape, then there could be more aggression of fish because they're scrapping over like the nice archway or cave or whatever they want to call their home. But in general, if you have lots of fish too, if there is aggressive fish, it will spread it out so not one fish is getting picked on. So it's definitely has advantage having lots of fish, but you got to make sure whether it's corals or rock, but you have lots of different crevices and hidey holes and stuff to kind of keep the peace in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Ultimately, it boils down to keeping water quality, right? Yeah. I've met multiple like fish collectors where, the tank wasn't full of a bunch of coral, but had more fish than I ever thought would fit in a 250 gallon tank. And they were doing it great, and they had expensive fish in there, like we were talking like crosshatches and nice. Purple tangs, black tangs, like just real expensive collector style fish, and they were doing great, beautiful, healthy fish. But most certainly an overcrowded tank when it comes to space, and per inches of fish per gallon. And yeah, like, I had a good conversation with this one fellow I'm thinking of about aggression and stuff. And he's very aware of it and moves fish around as needed. So when, something starts to get picked on and it's not getting food, like he'll catch it, which, in and itself is a job. But, he's actively taking care of the fish based on the aggression and not having the proper space and stuff for them. So, I mean, those ultimately are the two most important things. And I mean, if you boil it down to it, like, yeah, you most definitely can have too many fish. But there's things that you can do to combat that and to, successfully keep them even in a smaller tank.
Yep. Now, when like we were talking about the clowns earlier, I feel that adding the same type at the same time has advantages just because there is no dominant one yet. There's no territory wars yet because they're not
Yeah.
established. And I find that works. And like the clowns, likely you'll have a pair at each end of the tank or each corner or something like that. It's likely what will end up
Yeah.
happening.
Fingers crossed, man.
Yeah.
I hope it works out that way. I've got some rock or some flower nems. Don't like to call them rock nems. A rock anemone is an aptasia, man. So the flower nem.
Are you in?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to add a bubble tip, a BTA in there.
Mhm.
And so I don't know, maybe they'll all hang out together, an ideal world, but I know it's not going to happen. I mean, they'll pair up, but I mean, I could typically or technically have one female or, one dominant female and then, have the three males because they all are really small.
I actually, on the plane the other day, I was actually reading Coral Magazine about this and NEMS,
Mhm.
and generally what they said for multiples to host, it will generally be the dominant female and the male, and then two adolescents, so like younger ones. And
Okay.
that's kind of how it will work if you have multiple clowns hosting, sharing an anemone. And
Right,
if
right.
for whatever reason, or actually the dominant one stays the dominant, and then something happens, and the next one will turn to the dominant, and kind of trickles
Right.
along. But the
Yeah.
adolescents will actually stay kind of like subordinates in a way until there's like room to move up, and then they'll like grow bigger. It's kind of crazy how
Yeah.
that happens.
Yeah, man. Nature is metal, right? It's
Yeah,
pretty cool how that all works out.
it's crazy. It's like, oh, there's no ladies here. Time to change sex.
Yeah, no, I mean, gosh, that's just fascinating in itself.
It's amazing that fish can do that, and a lot of fish actually do too. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, a lot of fish like change sex and like flasher wrasses, like they have a cool, sort of harem thing going on.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's a ton of them. This fish out in California used to fish for all the time. We call them sheephead out there, but they're a big old ugly wrasse with these, big old gnarly chompers on them, these funny looking teeth, and they eat urchins and crustaceans and stuff, and they're good eating fish. We used to fish for them, but they're the same sort of thing. Like depending the time of year, like you would catch a bunch of females or males, or you would get like transitional fish where it's like, the male turning into a female. And the thing was, like, the coloration between the male and the female was like really distinct. You had like these bright red and black, like it looked like a snake, like red, black, red type coloration on the males, and then the females were much smaller and sort of a pale pink color. And it was a really really neat fish to just like look at and get your hands on. I mean, you used to fish them and eat them, so you catch quite a few of them, but at the same time, there's really fascinating, and it boils across the board. And sure, there's plenty of other species out there that we're not even, thinking of that do this.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. Does Robert used to work at Marine Depot? He used to, and now he works for BRS,
Yeah,
and he makes all these lovely content articles for you guys to read and learn.
it's been a
Sharing
long
the
time,
knowledge.
man.
I know.
Time. 2 years,
Definitely.
2.5 years. Crazy time, crazy week this week, man.
Yeah.
Busy.
Very. So another question I get asked quite frequently is about adding multiple tangs to a tank. So recently I had acquired another yellow tang, and I knew that would be slightly trouble because the yellow tang in my frag tank was a bit of a punk. He's always a bit of a punk to new fish. So one
Wait,
trick that
what kind of fish was it? You said the poke?
yellow tang,
Yellow tang, right? Okay.
call him Kool-Aid because he's like, anyways, like he's a cool fish, but he's definitely a bit of a punk. So I did the good old mirror trick where you put a mirror on the side of the tank, because they'll generally be more aggressive to their own reflection over anything else because they're like, oh, he's my size, right? He's in my territory, and they'll wear themselves out against the glass for a while. So I did that at first, and he was still being a punk towards the other one. So I got a bunch of that craft mesh and like literally split the tank in half. So I'm like, hey, you get like 3 feet, you get like 3 feet, and I split them up for a day or two until I knew the new
I
guy
remember
was.
I
Yeah,
remember
so
this.
so he's eating, settled in, and then ended up getting another one. So I somehow have 3 yellow tangs there now, and they're basically friends now. But it's crazy. I don't know. It stresses me out seeing the bit of chaos for the first little while in there.
Yeah,
But
I agree with you.
yeah, you definitely can do it, but you need to make sure no one's getting too harassed. If you need to split them up, then so be it. Make sure they're eating and healthy. Like all these little things you got to kind of take into account when you're trying to put the same species in the tank with certain fish, like
Right.
tanks.
I've seen it done 100 times. Just be prepared to do the work.
Yep.
Like what you said, it was a process for you.
Yep.
If you have an established tang that's big, there's more aggressive species within the tangs or surgeon fish, but then there's also like fish have individuality and personality. So if you have three yellow tangs, one will be a jerk, two will be calm. You've
Mm-hmm.
got four purple tangs, one might be a jerk, three will be fine.
Yep.
You might get in the same. This happens with triggerfish too. The same sort of thing. You've got like a couple triggers you want to keep, and one trigger out of the whole tank of triggerfish that you have is the only one causing the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that fact that a lot of people forget, and that's why it's so hard to generalize. Can you put two tangs in a tank? Well, yes and no. It's a gray area. It's not always a black and white. But I think the advice, if you want to do it, would be just be prepared to do the work and be smart about it. Adding them at the same time is always there, but usually a luxury we don't get.
Yeah.
Isolating in ISO chambers, dividing the tank, doing the mirror trick. There's all these things that you can do. Usually, if you go through those efforts, you're going to have success. Having said, you don't let one get too beat up, to where it stresses it out and gets sort of over the hump of not being able to recover.
Yep. And if there is one being aggressive, I find putting a mirror on the side of the tank works wonders because the aggressive one always tries to like fight with himself, his own reflection, and it just gives.
I feel so bad for the fish though, even if he's a jerk fish. Like I feel so bad for them. Like
I know.
Pecking at the glass. Like, and I mean, they get obsessed with their own reflection and they start doing the back and forth swim thing, and we're just weaving right at the reflection, and oh man, I feel so bad for them.
I do too. But if they're being a punk to the new one, I mean, I'd rather them wear himself out than attack the new guy.
I get the reasoning. I just feel so bad for them. I'm like, oh man, he lost his marbles.
Everyone play nice, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Quick shout out, Aaron. Thank you for the super chat. Same with John Reefer Vermont. Tuition fee for today's class. Had surgery, disc problem. Now all healed. I would have been in the morgue if I missed the stream. Much appreciated, John. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And well, I still have it on my mind. Mauricio. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Happy early birthday for tomorrow.
There you go. Happy birthday, Mauricio.
All right. So what's next for the tank? So you finally got fish going in.
Now I need to find coral. So I was, big goal on this was to, branch out. So I'm in a new place. I've been here for 2 years. Like I want to go meet people, meet reefers. I've participated somewhat in the local club. I wish I should do more. Middle Tennessee Reef Club. Shout out to you guys. You've been great. But I just want to go meet people, trade coral and frags, and bring them into my tank. Two things: experiment with biodiversity, but then also just meet people and get out there and network with local reefers out here in the South. And so, yeah, that's kind of my goal. Just sort of keep chipping away at that. People were great in the beginning when I reached out and asked for corals and trades and stuff. And I still have some promises to go meet some people and pick up some frags. So as time allows for that, I'll just slowly chip away at that. There are some specific corals I want to get. I don't want to be in the situation. Yeah, though they're really silly, man. They're like soft corals and stuff, like
that's okay.
Sarcos and yeah. So I want like the classic green leather. I'd love to get the weeping willow type leather. I want some just your typical like Kenya tree coral or colt coral stuff. I want green simularia.
Yeah.
Just sort of all of these typical soft corals. What was the other one that? Like gorgonians. Definitely want to get some gorgonians in there. I do have one fella sort of looking out for gorgonians for me, but it seems like, man, those things sell out fast at different places. They'll get them, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I'll go check it out tomorrow, and it's like gone or sold out already. So I've got to jump on the gun with gorgonians.
You should turn that little 10 gallon to like a really sweet like MPS tank of just cool gorgonians and different features.
Well, I do have an end game. Like I still have some equipment to deal with. I've got some dosing pumps, some Ecotech Versus. that I want
Nice.
to do auto water change with the whole organization down there and getting a shelf and everything. Like I'm now in a much better place to do that. Um, I have a like a water change system for the most part
Mm-hmm.
to where I think I want one more barrel. It just makes it easier for water changes.
Yep.
So once I'll get another 20 gallons brute, get them both on wheels, and then I'll be able to set up like a nice auto water change system.
Nice. So worth
Um,
it.
yeah. Oh, and I got a mangrove. I had that in
Ooh.
there, but I just couldn't. Um, I couldn't get it shallow enough, and I didn't want to mess with my lighting, and I had this grand vision originally to use mangroves in there,
Mm-hmm.
but no harm, no foul. I knew that it probably was going to go south, and one of the like 4 or 5 leaves it had sort of turned yellow, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to kill this thing, so I planted it in the dirt. It's outside, it's doing great, and I just we get a lot of rain here, so it stays
Mm-hmm.
pretty wet because they apparently when they're in soil, like you do want to keep them really wet,
Yep.
um, and it's
N-
been 2 or 3 weeks now, and it seems to be doing all right. I mean, they grow slow, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
dead, that's for sure. So
Nice.
yeah, we'll see how it goes.
I want to try doing a mangrove one day. I think it'd be fun. Do you know those little smaller frag tanks that BRS had on like their what's new section on their site?
Yeah, like the like a low boy, like a
Yeah, but
shallow
they're
one.
like they're like 6 inches or 8 inches tall. I've been debating like a little
That
one
would
just
be
for like a
cool.
little tiny mangrove tank just for fun, maybe a couple rock flowers and a mangrove. Just something
Yeah.
super simple.
I,
It'd be
I
cool.
mean, it would be awesome. The hard part with that is like getting the dang thing started. Like you have
Hmm.
to I don't know, put stilts, or you're gonna have to because they will sort of grow in and amongst the rocks. Like you don't need
Hmm.
to shove them in sand. Like you think
Yeah.
naturally, like their root network is exposed, um, or at least a lot of it is. So you just have to build the rocks in such a way, and that was my plan all along, was to like maybe have think of like a volcano, so just
Yeah.
sort of have this and then the mangrove down the middle and the roots sort of come out through the cracks in the rocks. But yeah, you could do one of those things where you like had your rockscape come up out of the water,
Hmm.
that
I
way it
think
was
that'd be
tall
cool.
enough to support. Yeah, my point being is you need something to support that mangrove like right in the
Hmm.
middle. And that's why a lot of times you'll see them like kind of off to a corner, or you see them clipped to the overflow. Uh, you know, you just got to get creative with that to have it ultimately look nice. But I think once you get them going and their roots become rigid and they obviously get larger,
Hmm.
man, now that would be killer. Like if you
That'd be
had like
awesome.
that, like the true sort of like mangrove root forest going on in like you know, a low boy, an
Yeah.
8 inch tall to 12 inch tall tank, like that
You
would
know
be
the
something you just don't see ever really. You see it at like public aquaria type places or like synthetic. But yeah,
Julian Sprung's booth at the
yeah,
shows, he has his
yeah,
one mangrove in his tank with sand, and then that like cool branchy stand. Like I think sweet.
yeah,
Like that'd be just cool as
yeah.
having it in the
I mean
office,
that's,
like a cool little
I
display
mean,
stand.
Julian's is the only one I've seen I mean, a couple like in public aquaria, but like we talk
Hmm.
about like hobby level, and that one that he brings around to the trade shows. You just my point is
It's
you just
cool.
don't see them like that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
super cool. It's just I don't know. I mean, please, if there's people out there that have them, like prove me wrong, show me. Like I'd love to see more big mature mangroves, but um, I just don't see them.
Yeah.
You see mangroves in tanks and stuff, but I'm talking about like this vision that we have for them, like having that root scape and like a nice thick stem that holds itself up, and um,
Yeah.
yeah, just it's a rarity. I think we're going to see more and more of it as this becomes more popular. But
When
um,
I
yeah,
was in Louisiana, just outside of New Orleans, can't remember the name of the shop. It was upstairs in this place, and they had this like massive lagoon tank with this like crazy mangrove that was like growing all the way to
yeah,
the roof. It was super cool. I'll
uh,
find photos later, but it was just
these,
such a unique thing.
yeah, man, that's what I'm saying. It's like I want to see more of that kind of cool stuff. I mean, that those sort of unique outside the box ideas are definitely what excite me.
Hmm.
Um, Especially when it comes to creating, aquariums, terrariums, biotopes.
Yeah.
It's part of the fascination for me is having sort of the artistic experience with it, where you can do different things and sort of think
Hmm.
outside the box.
Be cool. Or like the rock states coming out and have like air plants on there. I don't know. Do something cool.
The airplane, I've seen the air plant thing. I debated that for a little bit. I like sort of like suspending things too. They can create. I mean, just the magnetic rock on the wall is cool. But like different maybe overhangs or like putting rock or synthetic rock on your overflow, so like the whole back wall looks natural and rocky, and you can fill it with coral. I've
Yeah.
always loved putting coral on the back wall. Once you get that coral covered, you can glue corals on there and have the back wall covered and stuff. Like that's a super cool thing,
Hmm.
and you don't need to algae scrub it anymore, and it looks great. No one
It's
can
true.
give you crap for not scrubbing the back wall of your tank. So win-win on that side.
Yeah, definitely. Roxanne, thanks for the birthday wishes. Thank you for the super chat. But you are most definitely welcome, and happy birthday to your husband. Early birthday. It's technically not till tomorrow, but happy early birthday. Robert, if you do not have it by then, I do have neon green Sydney Lara coral next time I see you at a show. If you have not acquired it by then, let me know.
Cool. I will. Thank you very much, buddy.
Welcome.
Yeah, when the day comes that we see each other, you'll probably be bringing each other more than just singularity corals. Yeah, I'm not going to go to any trade shows this year. Just way too much.
Yeah, probably next year, realistically.
Well, with the pandemic and stuff and coming back full circle with that, I work remote. So, I'm going to start traveling back for work and seeing family, man, like that's, majority of my travel since it's sort of been cleared up has been to see family. I have 2 more trips this summer to go see family. So, yeah, I just priorities, I didn't want to spend that much time away from my kids, but then it's also important to see my family.
Yep.
Of course, work's important. So
it's true.
Next year.
No, that's true. I'll probably be the same for me. My one trip so far this year was for work, to work my butt off.
Yeah. I'm going to like a marketing conference, which is cool. Registered for that today. So, yeah, nice. Excited for that, but not reef trade shows.
Yeah, that's still, it's for marketing reef stuff, but it works.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. Learning's fun. I get excited about learning new stuff.
So with your tank, I'm curious, because I know, are you going to be fancy and automate things or keep her super low tech? I know you like things simple, so I'm curious.
I do.
I heard auto water change, so.
Yeah, you can't avoid automation these days. I'll top off. The auto water change is nice. I know myself, and before long, like I already want to have a controller on it. I didn't build the tank to have one. I built it and chose equipment that purposely was smart on its own.
Yeah.
So like, the lighting operates itself. The dosing pumps, they operate themselves. The reason that I'm going to want it is for protection and just to have that peace of mind and be able to do things on my phone. Like okay, so here's a perfect example. Water changed and super annoyed that I can't turn off what I want to turn off. I just unplugged the whole tank, which it works, don't get me wrong, it works. But yeah, I was most certainly annoyed at not having that capability. And I wanted to, I filled it back up, turned the tank back on, and then I wanted to mess with the skimmer, and I was annoyed that I couldn't just go turn the skimmer off, I wanted to take the cup out, and then I wanted to look at the Venturi just to make sure it was, working right or wasn't clogged up. So yeah, I had to go in, basically unplug the whole tank again, do my thing that I need to do, and then plug it back in.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'm ripping out my controller board and like find the individual plug and like, going that route. So I don't know, and we'll see how long it lasts. Right now, my hurdle is to like organize the cords. So I have a controller board and I've got my controllers mounted where I want them, but the power bar and all the cords are not organized real nicely. I wrapped them up, but I didn't secure the power bar. I just like tucked it in behind the controller. It's safe, but it's I just didn't know if I wanted to permanently put it at that location. Specifically because I'm not using all the plugs, and 2, I don't like it. It fits behind that controller board, but it's such a tight space. It's not ideal. I know I'm going to need more plugs. I'm already having to pull power from another socket, like my skimmer's on extension cord, literally like a single extension cord that runs into the tank because I didn't have any more sockets. Granted, I didn't use all the ones in my big old long power strip. It's just the big wall warts are covering up sockets, so I just couldn't access another one. I don't know, man. I'm gonna organize the cords. I'm gonna get that auto water change going, and we'll see where I land.
If you want this, the super cheap, not really controller, but kind of a controller, make your life easier. Those DJ
Yeah.
power strips. That's what I used to use back in the
Oh
day.
yeah,
Because you
yeah,
plug everything in, you just have like a row of switches. So if you need to like auto
yeah,
wash, just like click, click, click. I
yeah.
mean,
No,
you
those
still
are
got to
nice.
turn it on, but
I've used them for sure. And
Mhm.
like the real old school, we used to have like these like they were computer ones with switches. Like you put them under your monitor. Like I'm talking like
Oh
green
yeah.
screen computer days. Okay. Um, I I I wouldn't be able to configure it under my. I would have to reconfigure everything because I'd have to mount it like in my stand or like somewhere weird. Like it just wouldn't
Mhm.
work out right from the way that I built the tank. But yeah, I mean, I can hardwire switches. Like I'm not, I'm capable of doing that. So
Yeah.
if I wanted to, I would just get a switch box and wire stuff into that with some
Mhm.
some quick disconnects or something.
Yeah.
Which I sometimes I get wild hairs and want to like have a weekend project. So who knows? Maybe I'll do something like that.
Could be good.
There I saw that one that's Raspberry Pi based, which is a real
Yep.
kind of a neat idea for me. Um, there's some new controller technology on the market. There's probably more coming. That's
Hmm.
exciting.
Yep.
Neptune has always been awesome in terms of supporting, me and my tanks, professionally and personally. So,
Hmm.
there's that. I mean, it's a system I know. I've used them
Yep.
3 or 4 times, or like 3 or 4 tanks I've built and used them. I know how like sort of how they operate. And then there's new and exciting tech from Neptune system I haven't used.
Hmm.
That would be interesting to me to try. And not just lighting, but I haven't used the Trident yet.
Yep.
I've used the Dose, but yeah, just the Trident in itself and whatever comes next from them. Yeah, it's just who knows. We'll see where it goes. But I'm not putting walls around my limitations for that. But I most
Hmm.
certainly built the tank with the intent of not having a controller right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Um, and the biggest reason is just because I hate the cords. The damn
Too many
cords
wires.
drive me nuts. Yeah, gosh. The day we can have like wireless power to like power our equipment, I will be a happy man.
That would be awesome. Um,
Yeah, right.
quick sidebar from the chat. Rainbow clove polyps. That is one you need for your tank. Those things are
I have
beautiful.
it
Do you?
like
Okay.
the yeah, like some people call them firework clothes, but rainbow. Didn't you
Basically the
post
same
a
thing.
picture of them?
I think I
You
actually posted that yesterday. Speaking of
yeah.
it.
No, I do have them. That was actually shout out to Tennessee Middle Reef Club member who gave me those. That was like the first coral I put in the
Yeah.
first coral I put in the tank was actually a frag plug of those. Those are doing great.
Nice.
Yeah, they're sort of right in the middle there, and those are neat ones. But I wish they were like regular clove polyps and just like grew like wildfire. They definitely grow a lot slower than your boring old pink clove polyps. Do they grow real well for you or fast?
No, they're super slow.
Yeah,
In my frag tank, they're like the slowest growing thing ever. They're starting to grow fairly well in my main tank. Like they're starting to grow up the rock. Bert's asking if they fluoresce at all. They look good. Like they look really cool under normal tank lighting. They're kind of on the stair side of my tank, so I actually haven't really looked at them under like the heavy blue time. But I will
the green and the
check
orange
later.
fluoresce. It's
Yeah.
but not the pink. Like so, a majority of it's just the pink flesh,
Hmm.
which doesn't fluoresce. But the mouths and then the little orange stripes will fluoresce, which is why they call them the rainbow,
Hmm.
or fireworks, which is it's really neat. And there's sort of different variants of them, where you have like some different coloration on them, but yeah, they're not like they're not like a one of these like real nice gonioporas you're seeing where you're getting glitters and sparkles and lots of fluorescence.
But but even those, like the Ganis aren't crazy like UV glowing, but they look nice under normal lighting. Like they look awesome under.
Oh yeah, no, touche. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I guess it's not. Yeah, it's not like in your face psychedelic. You know, UV popping like you said. Yeah.
But I guess it depends if you like the more natural look or the black light party look.
It's I don't like to judge people or like I mean because I see the beauty in both sides of that. Like
Hmm.
corals look cool under UV light. Corals
Yeah.
look cool under daylight. They
That's
look
what
different.
that's why you have
Like
dimmable and and
why?
blues and
Yeah, like why is it like just okay? That's just it exists. Like why get mad at somebody because they like prefer to have like a real blue look in their tank or like call it wrong or unnatural?
I appreciate
Like,
it all.
yeah, man, it all looks really cool.
Yep.
Shit, I program my lights to have like the experience both. Like
Yep.
um,
100%.
in the evening, essentially when like I'll most likely to be interacting with the tank, I have a real long ramp down. So like my ramp up is real quick, like an hour, hour and a half,
Hmm.
and then I run it at peak for like 6 or 7 hours, and then like I ramp down for 3 hours at night.
Yeah.
And that last hour of that, I have a heavy. It's like basically just the UV and the heavy blues,
Hmm.
um, and that's the time where you get that real heavy fluorescence.
Yeah.
Now, the normal ramping has some blue and some fluorescence, but it's not like super duper like blue water,
Hmm.
really fluorescent
I call it black light
experience.
party.
Yeah, black light
Yeah.
party, black light party. And that's just the last hour, so I still get
Yeah.
that experience. I can show the kids about it.
Hmm.
But it's not, it's not like all day that way.
Sometimes I walk by the tank on the blues and I'm like, dang, that looks good. But most
Yeah,
of the time I
no,
have it whiter in the day because I like the crispy look too. So
classically, I like with metal highlight days, like I always was appreciative of, whiter or more natural looking tanks.
mhm.
And see, I like brown corals. Like I don't get like I appreciate big mature corals
Mhm.
more so than I do like really bright corals. Corals that grow slow kind of aren't my most favorite thing. Like I get a big satisfaction out of growing corals,
Yeah.
fragging them, trading them, getting them huge and things like that. So
Mhm.
I think that's where that sort of boils down to or comes from is sort of my affinity for growing the stuff because I like it. I like to see it explode and
Yeah.
bloom and blossom.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I like it. It's yeah, I appreciate a nice filled in tank over a ton of half-inch sticks. So I feel you.
Yeah. I mean, like I appreciate beauty and all of it, but man,
Mhm.
like I
Nice
would
big
choose
cheap
a
colonies.
yeah, I would choose a tank like full of big soft corals and inexpensive beginner corals and zoanthids and things that was full and mature and say 2 or 3 years in
Hmm.
over a 10-gallon tank with like three $500 frag pieces or whatever in there. When you talk like cost of coral wise, the 10-gallon tank with these little 1 inch frags is going to cost more like a retail side,
Hmm.
but the beauty and what I want to have in my home and deal with and experience is most certainly going to be this big mature tank, and that's what I'm striving for.
Yeah.
And I think there's a great balance in the middle for sure, and that's where I kind of land with all my reef tanks, no matter where I start out or think I'm
The
headed.
yeah. The funny thing is too, like everyone loves the movement reef tanks, right? And especially if you look at someone
Yeah,
that doesn't have a reef tank or anything above it, they
it's all
love
they
the floaty
notice is
sway
like
things. And there's like the
for
whole subculture of like stickheads that are like addicted to these sticks that barely move or do anything, and they're like
but
ten
they see
times the
that's not
price.
true. They do move and they move crazy.
The
It's just
polyps do
that's what I'm
little
saying.
tiny.
It's just
Yeah,
microscopic, and so like when
yeah.
you look at it, it's like it may not be big, but like gosh, think of a Milliopora or like
Oh,
in the
millies are the
evening when they're
best.
feeding, like yeah, those things are moving all over the place. Might look like
Hmm.
they're furry and bugs are crawling on them, but there's movement in there, man.
100%.
But yes, I agree with you, or I understand like
Hmm.
people, even outsiders, they get fascinated with anemone movement and euphilia movement, specifically those two, but just anything that's got big wavy polyps for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Do you when you talk to someone that doesn't have a reef tank and you explain to them that every single thing in there is alive, I always find it interesting because they're always like, "What?" Because you're like the corals, like anemone
Yeah,
layer, they can move, you can
I
feed it, you can
had
watch tentacles grab stuff. It's
I have the conversation, or I had the conversation like yesterday with my neighbor,
yep,
neighbor Steve. He's a good guy, and he like apparently he kept some cichlids and like he likes his pets. We have some chickens that he likes to hang around with, loves his dog, So he's into pets, he's that type of fellow. Is the point.
yeah,
And so I showed him the tank, and yeah, he was pretty fascinated with the fact that, and we talk about gardening a lot too. And I related it to that. I was like, it's just like growing our daylilies and different things that we grow in the yard. Like, um, they're all alive. And like the goal is to ultimately plant this, like, create this living scape back there, that's sort of has this master plan and all gels
hmm,
together.
exactly. So where you are, do you have the crazy heat there, or is it not too bad?
Yeah, it's a nightmare. It's been
Yeah.
like that for a week. It's been more than a week. No, it's been a week, 7 days, I guess. Um, we got some like summer thunderstorms yesterday, so it
Hmm.
cooled a little bit, but otherwise, no, it's just been sweaty, sweaty, sweaty. It's been
Yeah.
hot, hot as
My
hell.
air conditioner cannot keep up at all. It is. like 110 outside right now, and my house is roasting, and there's fans surrounding me so that I'm not melting right now. But my poor tank, I've actually, because we do these like little meal food kit things, and I've been taking all those ice packs and throwing them in my sump and like swapping them out every like 4 or 5 hours to try and cool my tank down.
I so my tank is in my basement,
Hmm.
so I don't have to deal with that. Like it stays consistently in the 70s year
When,
round. Like it's
yeah,
100 outside and the basement stays 75, 78 with well, okay, so we do have an AC, but it's like actually really poorly conditioned down in the basement. It just
hmm.
naturally because it's under,
Oh,
three sides of the basement are surrounded by dirt, it naturally stays cooler or it's just less drastic changes down there. Um, Stays
huge.
warm in the winter. Yeah, it's huge in terms of that. Okay, perfect example. I changed some water, and I didn't put a heater in there. I mixed it. I put the pump in yesterday at like 4. About noon today, I went and finished and changed it. I checked it with my hand, a salinity tester, which just so happens to have a thermometer on it, and it was
Hmm.
77.6 degrees,
Oh,
just
perfect.
like like on the money. And I didn't even, I just, I was checking to see how far off the bucket was going to be from my tank because
Yeah.
I knew I was going to put these fish in soon enough, and I was like, well, I don't want to wait, you know, I just want to make sure there's nothing's going to go like have a temperature shock on top of like a new environment or like a stress shock. So I just wanted to
Hmm.
match them. Um, and yeah, it was 77.6. My tank was actually lower. The tank was like I want to say like 76.9 or maybe
Yep.
77 on the money. Um, yeah, and it just attributes to sitting down that basement naturally being a stable climate or environment, which is nice. It's really nice.
Walking downstairs is easily 10 degrees cooler than upstairs in my house. Like it
Oh
is.
yeah, easy, 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 easy. It's amazing the difference. We have like a spiral staircase, which just goes straight up, and
Yeah.
so
That's cool.
um, yeah, it's neat it's just amazing that the drastic difference between upstairs and downstairs. I mean, I'll hang out downstairs on these hot days, um, as much as possible.
Yeah. Insane reef for my temp range is 77, 78. That's where I normally keep my tank, but it's been hitting like 81-ish lately, and it's
Oh, it's a
I've
bummer.
actually had a couple torches like starting to polyp out and recede on me. I'm like, so I've lost a head or two, and there's a few that are not doing good. So I started throwing ice packs in my tank. I'm like, hey, and there's fans on it now, and it's ugh. So hopefully survives
That's so fun.
the next
I've been
week or
there,
so.
man. I've been
Sucks.
there. I lost some prized clams with heat
Ooh.
a couple years ago, and well, lots of years ago now,
Mm-hmm.
like 10 years ago.
But
But yeah, no, the heat thing's no fun. I think too, like I'm a big believer in like you can survive at 82, you know, but when
it's
it
the
starts to
swings
creep
and stuff.
beyond that and
Yeah.
the swing, yeah, and you get the swings where it's like day night, because as soon as the,
Mm-hmm.
the evening hits, like you start to drop and get into like your typical zone where it wants to be. And you do a couple weeks of that where you just like no mercy from the weather, and you start to see things suffer, man. And there's short of buying a $600 or $700 chiller, like what are you gonna do?
I know.
I mean,
Well,
the ice floating kind of works, but now you're still running into swings. You still have
yeah.
to work. You can't do it every hour. Like you run out of fridge space. Um, 2 liter
I know.
bottles work. Like that's what I've when I had the experience. I
Mm-hmm.
used 2 liter bottles and I froze those. And since they're so big, they lasted for a while.
Yeah.
Um, but going to work, like there's no way. Like that's when it
Yeah.
happened was when I was at work and it
Oh,
hit like 83, 84 degrees.
I felt bad, but I saved this photo because it kind of made me laugh. I felt bad for him. He was dealing with it. He threw a frozen turkey in his tank
Oh,
to
hope in a
cool
bag.
it down.
Yeah.
And, oh, where is it? It was like, holy crap, that's hot. Oh, maybe I didn't save it. I could have swore I saved it because it kind of
Oh
made me
man,
laugh, but I also felt
I
bad for him as I'm watching my
mean,
tank from like super far away, being like, ah, can't do anything right now.
we have chickens. I
Yeah.
got 2 turkeys, so that's exciting. I have 2 baby turkeys right now. Gosh, yeah. That's a big tank
I
or a tiny
know.
turkey, one or the other.
I think it's a big tank and a big turkey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's exciting. So I got a couple baby turkeys right now, Bob and Linda, and then we got this real neat. We got a baby duck too. He's real cool. Excited. The kids like it.
Nice. That's
We got a
awesome.
bunch of chicks we hatched this year, some more silkies and stuff. So yeah, the Farnsworth family farm is active.
That's awesome. That's fun. It's fun. I find if you're into animals and stuff, I mean, And kind of one thing is hooks you into another thing, and it's
Yeah,
cool.
man.
My this is totally not fish related, but a buddy that owns a fish store, so it's kind of related. He lives not too far up the road from me. And I remember in the winter he has a bunch of chickens, and they're afraid to walk in the snow. So he did this like random zigzaggy, like shoveled out this path, and they'd run around like a racetrack. It's hilarious.
That
I
is
don't know
funny.
why it just made me laugh.
That is really funny.
Yeah,
Like create a racetrack for the chickens.
he
That's
totally
really,
did.
really funny. Oh, that's great.
It was so good, but yeah, it was funny.
All right,
All right,
buddy.
yeah, man.
Anything else?
I don't think so. Just a bunch of
Okay.
randomness in the chat. No direct questions, anything overly reefing related. Some guitar song requests and a few things. So
Oh,
one day they want to see your skills.
I restreamed my guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah. A couple weeks ago. Yeah. I'm not real motivated to play it, that's for sure. But hopefully it hits me. I played music for a long time, but it's not something that I do very frequently anymore. Yeah, but maybe, I don't know, we'll see. Well, I wanted to show my kids. My daughter started asking to learn how to play, and I wanted to show my toddler. And I pulled it out, and the strings were all busted up, and I had to fix one of the keys. But I don't know. Like I said, I get a wild hair every now and again, and we'll sit down and do it. But I'm definitely, no Van Halen, man.
Mm-hmm.
Just a hobby.
Yeah, well, that's all any of us are, right?
Yeah, right.
We're just hardcore hobbyists. All right, man. Thanks for coming on today. It's melting, so won't keep you too long.
Thanks for the invite, bud. It was a good combo. Appreciate you talking.
Of course. Thank you, everybody who joined today. Extra shout out to Rob, Roxanne, Kenzie, Aaron, and John. Thank you guys very much for the super chat and hanging out with us on this super toasty, melty day. And Robert, you finally filled your tank. Yes.
We will see you later, Devin. You have a good night.